Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Brain Muffin at the Movies. And it seems to be what I do more and more is articles about various movies. I'm trying to branch out. And here's something that goes back a long way. Now, I've liked James Bond movies, and I've disliked some James Bond movies. Timothy Dalton took over the reins of James Bond when I was in high school. And so I have a little bit of Roger Moore and Timothy Dalton, although I kind of like those movies. And I like Pierce Brosnan better, but I also enjoyed him in Remington Steele before he was James Bond. And I have to admit, I've liked some aspects of the modern incarnations of James Bond, the reboot, Casino Royale, and all that. And I've disliked others. And it looks like the things I don't like have gotten more and more egregious, and they're just going to continue. I mean, they got a little bit more realistic with some of the violence and stuff, and which in some ways was more akin to the book. The books than I have read. Now, it's been years, but I did read several James Bond books back in the day. I don't know if I was in high school or maybe early college. I forget exactly. At some point in the 80s, maybe into the early 90s. I don't even think I have them anymore, and I don't believe any of them were made into movies. But so this is interesting from the Daily Wire. This is more and more of but this started, with Judi Dench's M telling James Bond he was a relic of the Cold War. I get that. A lot of that intrigue and things, especially in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, and even into the 90s, was against Russians. I get it. I get that aspect. But the whole point of James Bond is this super cool guy. And maybe this version of society has, it's not aged well. Maybe its time has come and gone. Okay, fine. Then don't make any more. Don't make any more movies. But the character, or make them, set pieces. This is James Bond, but it's set in the 60s or set in the 70s or whatever. Because the whole point is, men want to be him and women want to be with him. And what's incredible is these women are very strong and feminine always. They're not just some helpless damsels in distress. They're not just supermodels that can just stand there and look pretty. They all have, they're smart. Some of them are spies themselves. Some of them have, they're combat trained. Some of them have good marksman skills. Some are doctors and other things. The way the stories go, they're not just bimbos. So seeing this is really irritating because Bond girl means a lot more than it is not a bimbo. And to ban it from the set tells me someone really doesn't, they're offended by that because they do not know where it's from or because it's beauty again, right? James Bond's always a very good looking man. The women are always beautiful. And that, just can't be tolerated today. According to leaks reported by the Daily Mail, which was interesting when I was looking for this article, I found the Daily Mail article as well. The sequel, No Time to Die, will be the secret agent's wokest outing yet. And if I remember correctly, I believe, was it Lazenby's Bond that got married? I know they've married him before. And that happened in the books. And in some ways that was based on Ian Fleming's real life where his wife was killed, and James Bond was I know it was Bird Watching, but I forget if he wrote them, books he wrote or whatever. So among the other things, Bond will have a wife who refuses to take his surname. Of course, why not? Of course we do. The script has Bond marrying Dr. Madeleine Swann, the psychiatrist played by French actress Lee Sado, I guess, who first appeared in 2015 Spectre, but she refuses to take her new husband's name that it reported. The morning after the wedding, Bond wakes sleepy-eyed and says, "Good morning, Mrs. Bond." She says, "Don't you mean Miss Swan?" Now, how about Mrs. Swan? Now, look, this was a big thing in the 70s for when women started to this, or you get hyphenated names. There's lots. This is not new. Okay. Again, this whole woke culture thinks this is a brand new groundbreaking thing. In society, it isn't. Now to James Bond, in the James Bond universe, maybe, but, so what? But it's going to make more of this than really. On top of that, a source close to production told the outlet that phrase Bond girl has been banned from set while filming. Phrase Bond girl is outlawed from the set. The source said the women in this film are all strong, brave, and fiercely independent, which is true with almost all of the women in, especially the Bond girls. Sometimes he goes up against them, and sometimes they become his, partner. But when it's over, they part ways. So some are not helpless girls who jump into bed with Bond. They have never been helpless girls. Now, there have been some helpless girls who end up dead and other things, but they were already in bad situations, like Goldfinger and others. Their reactions are very different from what people might think. Bond tries his usual seduction techniques, but they fail miserably. It's very funny. That is not funny, and that is not Bond. Those are not Bond movies, okay? This is not a Peter Sellers ripoff. This is not Casino Royale with Peter Sellers and David Niven. The Daily Mail also reported that James Bond will be driving an electric car. Oh my gosh, this just gets... But that rumor has been debunked multiple times in the past several months. So no idea where the car... Okay, said Aston Martin. The 3 cars for the Bond film decided ages ago, well before the rumor emerged. Thank goodness. Hopefully that's not true. The phrase Bond girl is also not the only thing reported outlawed from the No Time to Die set. Plastic water bottles were also nowhere to be seen. Of course not. But I like them using reusable bottles. That's not really a big deal. Single-use plastic bottle. Okay. The Daily Mail continued. More than 11 tons of package wasting is also recycled, while producers sent 30 tons of food waste and biodegradable packing to anaerobic digestion, which microorganisms break down material, producing a gas that can be used to generate electricity. Yeah, that's been around for a long time. I hope they looked into where they send it for recycle, because sometimes the stuff isn't recycled. They say they do, and then they just basically make it really, really small and take it to landfill anyway. Just chop the crap out of it. Amid reports, however, that James Bond will be ushered into the Me Too age. Yeah, screenwriter Phoebe Waller-Bridge recently attempted to clarify that she had no intention of turning the iconic spy into some feminist superhero. Yet we have this. Okay, this is a modern feminist superhero. Okay, because it takes a strong woman and an act of submission to take on her husband's name. That is an act that has to be taken from a position of strength. They were just looking for tweaks around a few of the characters and a few of the storylines. My involvement is much more practical. Just, you're a writer, we need some help with these scenes. That's hopefully okay. But there's so much nonsense that's been coming out about this movie. And this is the first time I've actually covered an article on this channel. I've looked at others. I've watched a lot of videos on it. I know Jeff's covered it on World Class Bullshitters too. It's like, I like this character, but this is not my favorite movie character. Then I'll talk about whether or not the Bond franchise is relevant now because of who he is and the way he treats women. How does he treat women? He treats them, yes, in a very seductive way, but it's nothing like some of our politicians treat women, and they get away with it. It's just not, just got to grow. Yeah. It has just got to grow. It just got to go. Oh my gosh. It has got to evolve. And the important thing is that the film treats women properly, which they already were. The women are part of the story and are integral in James Bond's success. Without the Bond girls, he doesn't, half the time without them, he dies. Okay. Last week, actress Lashana Lynch, who reportedly made history as the first black woman to play 007, told that The Hollywood Reporter that the makers of No Time to Die worked hard to usher James Bond in the hashtag Me Too age. Yet, where are you now? Where are you now? The only time this Me Too nonsense is done is when it's somebody who's somewhat of a conservative or a celebrity that needs to be removed. As soon as it's someone actually very powerful or in a position, someone that they can't have removed, silence, absolute silence. Everyone has really was really responsible to having her be what I wanted. Lynch said of her character, we're given fresh perspective on a brand new black woman in the Bond world. I didn't want someone who was slick. I wanted someone who was rough around the edges and who has past in history and has issues with her weight and maybe questions going on with her boyfriend. What? And maybe questions was going. So that's like what Jar Jar did with Uhura in the second Star Trek movie. Lynch even suggested to Waller-Bridge the possibility of a scene in which her character is on her period. Why? I mean, throwing tampon in oh my gosh. Really? Really? Okay. Comments. Are there any? Yes, there are. Wow. Well, there you go. That's just, yeah. Anyway. So what do you think? Do you think this is a good thing for James Bond? Bad thing? This is a fictitious character who is always larger than life. People, yeah, maybe it should have just started, and never rebooted it and just never made another Bond film from, when Timothy Dalton was done, because it has been miserable since then. All right. Thanks very much. And we'll see you. Goodbye. Oh, I still have that. All right. Shoot. All right. 3, 2, 1.